What's up, guys? I am going to discuss today an article that I have made for you that is going to touch on how we fuel for our endurance sports performance. And as I know, maybe not everybody is an avid reader, I've decided that I'm going to make this little video so I can give you the too long didn't read, so you get the essential information. Now, whenever we're talking about performing in endurance sports, the one thing that's going to be the massive difference maker to our performance, especially if we have some higher pace kind of goals that are going to be pushing our limits, is we have to have a nice understanding of the fact that carbohydrates are our body's preferred source of energy whenever it comes to higher intensity effort sport. So what do we have at our disposal to try and maximize our performance in the light of this information? The most important thing that we can do to get the absolute most out of our performance in endurance sports is going to be ensuring that we can top up those stores of sugar within our body. So all carbohydrates are stored sugar within your body. That's the first understanding. Now, moving on from there, we have to look into maybe what types, because there are many different types of carbohydrates. We can maybe class them broadly into two different groups. We could have complex carbohydrates, which are going to be like your rice, potatoes, even fruit and vegetable, anything that's a little bit more high fiber and slower release. Now, those would be your complex. And then opposite of that, at the other end of the spectrum, we might have kind of simple carbohydrates, so simple sugars. Now, those kinds of carbohydrates are going to be, absorbed into the bloodstream really fast, and there's a much reduced time of gastric emptying, and that's because of the lack of fiber that they are going to contain. And whenever we look at this kind of like slow versus fast release spectrum, that's going to be one of the most important things we're considering, is this kind of gastric emptying rate, which basically means how quick is the source of sugar going to be extracted through your digestive tract and have all of the nutrients absorbed for use by you. Now, whenever it comes to our scaling, when we actually are going to consume these things, there's some really important things to consider. Number one is going to be our timing of which type. Now, further away from the performance or our training, we want to top ourselves up with those slower release forms. So more like your complex carbs, anything like pasta, potatoes, those kind of things, amazing sources of carbohydrates. They're very tasty and we can actually eat quite a lot of them. So they should be your main sources. We also get some good nutrients from them. But as we come closer to the actual performance, your race or just your training run, we're going to transition to more of our fast absorbed, your simple sugars. So things like a little banana maybe, or you can have chews, which are high sugar. You can have sweets, isotonic sports drinks, anything like that. And these are going to be really beneficial because we can actually consume them right up until even like 30 minutes before our performance, and even during, whenever I touch on our in-race nutrition, which will be another video in this series. So some of the main things to consider at the moment, just to kind of take home points: you want to have your kind of slower release carbohydrates further away, between 2 to 4 hours, anything like your porridge, pasta, those kind of things. And then we're moving on that sliding scale, slowly coming into more of our faster release carbohydrates, your simple sugars, bananas, fruits, chews, those kind of things, because they're not going to have as much of an impact on your stomach. One final note that I want to end this video on is that you want to also take into consideration that your GI tract, your gastrointestinal tract, can be trained like a muscle. So with exposure to foods prior to exercise, your body is actually going to adapt to be able to absorb and use those types of foods a little bit better and more efficiently. And this is known as nutritional training. So whenever we want to implement a fueling strategy, we want to try and implement it over a number of weeks before your performance, so that then on the day of your actual race, you're going to just have this nice smooth transition and your body is really adapted. We might start with your kind of faster release sugars a little bit further out from your race, so say like 60 minutes, and then gradually over the weeks you're going to build that tolerance to those sources, and then whenever it comes to your race day, you can be probably fueling right up until the race, and that's going to be amazing because you're going to have more fuel to actually take you through your endurance event. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.